Welcome to GDI Consulting's webinar on the Department of Energy Federal Energy Management Program Energy Savings Performance Contract. This is an indefinite, this is an IDIQ, Generation 4 procurement. My name is Ab Vand, and I head GDI Consulting's Capture and Proposal Development Department. Joining me is Steve Mims, who is one of our senior proposal managers with extensive experience in both capture and proposal development. Steve was a senior proposal manager at General Dynamics before joining us. Okay, some administrative notes. If this is the first time you're attending one of our webinars, to the right of your screen under the blue File tab, there's a blue Download File button with which you can download the presentation slides. There's also chat at the bottom right-hand side of the panel, which you can use to send any of your questions. We are going to hold a Q&A at the end. So as we go along the webinar, if you come up with any questions, feel free to put them up on the chat and we'll get to them at the end. And this webinar is being recorded, so if you drop out or have to leave early or want to review it, the replay will be sent to you within 24 hours. You can also download the presentation by clicking on the file link to the right-hand side panel. There's also a red button with 3 dots on it to the right. It enlarges your screen and hides the side panel. And when you want to chat or download the presentation, you can again click on it and it shows the side panel. And if you have any problems in connection, there's a button on the top of the screen that if you lose connection, you can actually reconnect through that. Okay, let's move on. Before we start the actual DOE opportunity and explain that, I just wanted to give a very brief intro on what GDI Consulting does, so you have an idea what we are doing. We've been in business for 10 years, and as you can see, we have a 81% win rate in the proposals. We had about 228 wins in 2018 overall. We cover almost all agencies, and most of our proposal managers have over 20 years of experience working on the federal side of the program. And then we have about 68% growth in revenue and a 12% increase in IDIQ and GVAC wins. So we are quite familiar with the federal arena and can help any companies. But I do want to mention that GDI Consulting is a business development firm, not an intel providing firm. So our webinars are essentially more geared towards the hands-on capture and, more importantly, the proposal development side rather than just pure intelligence. And we hold these webinars on a periodic basis, and we'll be holding more webinars in the weeks to come. So if you're interested to get our agenda for webinars, please let us know. If you download the slide deck, my email and my colleague's email are on there, and you can connect to us. Finally, before we go into the details, I would like to say that if any firms are looking for partners, either being prime or being subs, do let us know, and we will try to put your hands in their hands. Whoever we know, whoever approaches us, we can actually help you connect to other companies for this particular bid. Okay, having said that, now Steve can take over. Steve?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining. As we proceed through this, first, I guess it's a good thing to give you an outline of the webinar. We're going to cover the highlights, the objectives of the program, and a little bit of a discussion of the proposal structure, notwithstanding the fact that a proposal hasn't been released yet. We'll explain that more, as well as what we expect the evaluation criteria will be together with an opportunity to ask questions, and we'll try our best to give you a good answer. Okay, first thing, it's important to understand what this procurement's all about. We talked about this as generation 4 of this particular procurement through DOE. There were 3 predecessors, and it's based on an act of Congress, 42 U.S.C. Code 8287, which was designed to grant authority to the government agencies to enter into contracts to implement cost savings programs in federal buildings, where the contractor incurs cost in exchange for a share of the energy savings. This is where it's really important, because the code reference here sets out the specific requirements that we're going to discuss here. So the government had it pretty easy in the sense of setting up their requirements, but because all they had to do is follow the statutory requirements in that. The efforts focus on the contractor's ability to identify improvements that will result in the government saving energy, and how they will implement renewable energy measures that will result in a reduction of utility bills at the facility. So like any construction contract, they're complex, but they also want to know how you're going to do it, what your timeline is for getting it done, and how you will measure performance. And in this case, arrange for any necessary financing. We go on to the next slide. As I mentioned, this is the 4th generation of IDIQ contracts. But the interesting thing is that it provides for contract performance of a period for up to 25 years. Again, that's another statutory requirement. We expect that this procurement will follow a outline for competition that was set in the 3rd iteration for full and open competition for a multiple award IDIQ with the Small Business Award Reserve. We expect to see 15 IDIQ contracts with up to 5 awards reserved for small business concerns. DOE does, because their opportunities are kind of wide open, reserve the right to change the number of awards to both large and small business concerns. We also expect to see a sample task. Now, I will give you a heads up that the previous solicitation included a lot of detail in the sample task. So there's a lot of homework that's got to be done before you decide to jump into this program. So this is all based on the solicitation from 2015. It's in the red at the top of the page here, 0006380. And I'm going to give you the approach that the solicitation 380 took with regard to volume 1, the corporate technical experience and management approach for the projects. Tab A, B, C, and D, and E, all focused on what I mentioned before, your proof of verified savings, energy project performance, contracting experience, and expertise. We've got a little bit more discussion of these sections when we get down into how they evaluated your approach to the tabs. I'll leave that here for just a second so that you can get an idea of where they're going. And if you take a look at the statute, you'll see that it's all right out of the code. Financial capability. They want companies with strong financial strength and stability. and the ability to obtain required financing at competitive rates, because what you're going to do is offer financing to the government through your source to complete the work, and then the government allows you to manage the monetary risk and withstand long-term payback periods, because you're going to recover your money in the savings that are actually demonstrated over the years of your program involvement. Past performance and project narratives and past performance questionnaires, as one would expect. Okay, the past performance, we'll talk about that again in the evaluation criteria, but they're basically going to take a look at, like any other program, the likelihood of success of the prime contractor and proposed key subcontractors, partners, and team members. They will then assess the totality to derive the past performance rating. Again, now in the previous proposal or solicitation, here were the goals, the small business subcontracting goals, 30% for small business, and then it goes down from there. Small disadvantaged business, 5%, woman-owned small business, 5%, Hub Zone 3, veteran-owned 3, and service disabled 3. Pricing. Tab A would focus on the delivery percentage and interest rate spread table. Now, the sample task price proposal is what they're really going to use to evaluate when they previous solicitation included placement of a chiller on top of a building to help in keeping the building cool, and it was extremely detailed. So it's not like you have to do a lot of narrative and this is how we approach it and this is how we're going to get it done. You're not making up anything, because they want to see evidence of your ability to do what you said you're going to accomplish. And we've got the miscellaneous requirements. Your typical standard form 33, rep certs, joint venture and mentor protege agreements and approvals, responsibility information, and DOE qualified list of ESCOs. Now, this is something very, very important, because you can't get into this program without having been placed on DOE's qualified list prior to the date of award. And DOE is insistent there will be no exceptions. There are over 100 companies on here now, and the solicitation will provide you with the URL to obtain access to the qualified list. But that is a prerequisite. So here we go with the evaluation factors. Sub-factors will be evaluated but will not be assigned separate ratings. Again, they're taking a look at the totality of the team's ability to do what they want accomplished. Sub-factor, the factor 1, corporate technical experience, management approach, verified savings. We're talking about the experience and expertise with verified savings based up to 3, evaluating up to 3 to 10 projects submitted by the offeror. I expect that'll stay the same. The management approach to support contract performance. They're really looking at the overall management system and organization for managing your projects, and they will evaluate for quality, feasibility, and thoroughness. Again, it's just like a large construction contract. I would expect to see requirements with regard to time, labor, materials, and expectations, how you're going to manage staff, and so forth. Ability to develop an ESPC project management plan. This is really the description of the PMP, okay, that'll be evaluated for completeness and effectiveness. Nothing new there. It gives you a lot of room to move and apply good standards. The energy baseline and savings calculation capability. You should understand how to use a methodology to establish and adjust the energy baseline so that they can compute the performance and how we're getting with regard to our objectives. The methods for evaluating and measuring energy savings performance will be evaluated for appropriateness. Then we got the measurement and verification plan. Previous solicitation required a description of not more than 5 potential issues that will measure consistency with your approach to managing the M&V guidelines that are set forth for DOE. So if you're interested in getting into this, you probably should poke around a little bit in some of these external documents. The financial capability, we talked a little bit about that at the beginning. And what they're talking about there is the financial strength and the stability of the team, evaluating it against various ratios to include interest coverage, acid tests, et cetera, to assist the government in its determination of your ability to perform the contract. No statements over 3 years old that are not certified, okay, will be evaluated. The ability to obtain the required financing at competitive rates. Now, keep in mind, the government's got an interest in what it's going to have to pay back, and it's going to affect how you're going to be able to calculate the return on their investment. The prime contractor's description of the proposed financing methodology and procedures to obtain task order financing will be evaluated for reasonableness and effectiveness. There's no right or wrong. It's just how you're going to be able to demonstrate how you're going to be able to finance and make money on this at the end. The most interesting aspect of this is the ability to manage monetary risk and withstand long-term payback periods, because the government will ask for the proposed or utilized business practices to minimize financial risk and base their evaluation upon practicality and understanding of the risk. So if you're proposing a new technology, be prepared to discuss where you've used it before, any kind of studies that illustrate the savings and that kind of thing, which will show the reasonableness and effectiveness of your approach. So here we get to the win strategy. The number one point I put on the win strategy, and Ab and I had a little discussion about this, is number one is to make sure you can get on that DOE qualified energy service companies list. Okay, the instructions and the application are here on this website that are posted in the blue here. I'll leave that up in case you want to copy it down, or of course download the file and you'll have it right there. The second thing would be to strengthen your partnerships. I don't expect anybody really is going to go into this alone, because you're going to want to look for the opportunity to use best practices, lessons learned from the teammates that will facilitate the sharing of the financial planning requirements. The team takes on the responsibility. The team takes on the responsibility of performance success, as well as the opportunity to gain monetary compensation for successfully planning and implementing this program, as well as new technologies. And then, of course, there's performance. So new technologies may arise during the course of your performance that look like they're a little further out there now, but if it looks like you can demonstrate the effectiveness of the rate of return, whether they're solar panels, wind, or whatever else comes along in the next few years. Get on this DOE qualified energy service companies list. Services that we can provide outside of the proposal is getting you on that ESOC list. They're like many proposals in themselves. You got to qualify to get on it. You've got to be validated in order to perform the work. I suggest that you get that qualification before you submit the proposal so that you'll know that there is a good opportunity for you in winning this. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to go through the proposal preparation effort without being on the qualified list and knowing that you will not be deemed ineligible for award. As Ab mentioned earlier, we do offer full proposal support. We can support you with preparation from, you use the term soup to nuts. We can do that. We can lay out the proposal for you, do the compliance matrix, do the annotated outline, support with the editing and interviewing subject matter experts to make sure that what we put down in writing is something that that makes sense and is saleable to the customer. We can also support with the assessment of the detailed sample task. The sample task, there are copies of it under the old solicitation reference in Fed Biz Ops. I think it's J25 is one of the sample tasks. So you get an idea from that, and we can support you with that, of evaluating what your approach is going to be, how you would make it fit, and then, of course, the subsequent color reviews, coordinating the efforts, and authoring. We can do a lot of initial authoring. We can meet with subject matter experts, as I mentioned before, and basically extract from the SME what it is that we need to have to put into the proposal language format. So that's all from me for now. I look forward to questions that you may have, and I'll turn it back over to Ab for the moment.
Okay, thank you, Steve. As you can see, emails and phone numbers for us is in the slides. So in case you want to contact us, we can go now to the Q&A session. And I will start putting some of these questions that I have received on the chat panel to Steve, and we can discuss them. Okay, Steve, the first question is, have they said, has the government said what weight they give to partnering, whether when they're reviewing the past performance or capabilities of the prime? Have they said anything about how important the partnering part is?
Well, they haven't talked about that, except to say that there are objectives for the small business participation, and you're going to be evaluated on the level of proposed participation and in its totality, okay, to say that, we've got the prime contractor, proposed subcontractors, and all their past performance collectively will be evaluated to determine a rating. It seems to me that the majority of the evaluation criteria look at what they refer to as the totality of the circumstances. I got somebody here who's proposed a good methodology. They got a team that's got good past performance, but what I don't see maybe is how they evaluate the risk. I mean, if you're proposing a new technology, you've got to know what the risks are, because they're very risk averse, but want to get people thinking about the approaches that they're going to use because of the long-term nature of the investment. I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, please let us know.
Okay, we have two more questions that are with regards to the past performance experience. The question is, have they said how many contracts we should present in the proposal? And also the second one says, should these contracts be with the DOE or they can be from the outside of the DOE sphere?
Oh, definitely can be outside the DOE sphere, okay? Because they're interested in bringing in commercial practices into the government. I mean, this is not something that is all federal. They don't expect to see that you're going to be limited. For example, if you did the Apple satellites office over in California, they would not want to exclude that from consideration just simply because it's not a federal project. There's a lot of innovative technology that went into that building, and to exclude that because it's a commercial project doesn't make any sense. And that's what the statute, it's real important to take a look at the statute. It's been on the books now with some amendments for over 20 years.
Okay, there's a question with regards to the nature of work to be performed. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, the nature of the work is going to be to provide, any kind of energy savings, introduce any kind of energy savings into a facility. So you've got to go in, you've got to take a look at the facility, you've got to evaluate its need, you've got to evaluate your technology, your approach, and what you think you're going to be able to save them. So there's a lot of convincing. The government's not going to necessarily come out and say, this is our problem, this is how you're going to do it. The sample task was only a measure that would demonstrate to the government that you know how to assess the risk, that you know how to assess the requirements, that you've got a solution that you can propose to do it, that it's meaningful, and that you can support with the financing. So don't expect them to come out and say, I want something that meets this requirement, this requirement, this requirement, and another requirement. You're going to come out and say, I want one that does in general the following. A good example of that was the end of the Bradley fighting vehicle, okay, to replace it with semi-autonomous approaches and weapons that will accomplish the objective. So they'll give you the objective, and they want you to be smart enough, because we're the experts, to tell them how they can accomplish that, how they can meet their objectives statutorily.
Okay, there's a question with regards to capture, whether we do capture for this project or not.
Well, I suppose we can, and you're probably going to have some comments on this too, Ab. Yep. Support capture from the perspective of, okay, your company provides X, Y, and Z. Okay, when it comes to construction, you might be able to handle that, but when it comes to financing, you may need some help. When it comes to sharing the risk, you might need some help. When it comes to your evaluation of the strengths and weaknesses of your approach, you may come to the conclusion that you need some help. Yeah, we can help you with that. We can certainly point out where we see pitfalls. Now, not putting ourselves in the position of the experts, but if collectively we're smart enough to know how to evaluate the terms and conditions of an RFP so that you're compliant and that you are not just answering the mail, but doing it in such a way that you're posturing yourself for a win, we can support that.
Yeah, and then I wanted to add to that one of the important things that usually is very critical in writing proposals is for the evaluator to feel and understand that you understand them, you understand their pain points. And one of the goals of capture is actually doing that. And One way of doing that is what we call an agency SME. We have a large network of former and retired contracting officers or program managers in different offices and agencies. And we usually use them as advisors and reviewers in our proposals so that they know the pain points, they know the inside information and what the government's real needs are, and they act as advisors to our proposal writing. So that's also something that we can bring on the table. And I think that can help the quality of our proposals. One other question is with exclusivity. I'll answer that. Yes, once we sign an agreement with any client, we're going to go exclusive. We only do multiple clients for multiple awards, which do not affect each other. Otherwise, we go exclusive. Okay, I think we have come up with the answers to all the questions. I would like to thank everyone for attending. As I said, the replay of this webinar will be sent to you within 24 hours. And if you have any questions and want to follow up, you will see my email right now on the screen. And you can also download the slide deck and then go from there. I would like to thank you again.
And thank you too.